Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. To my bed crimers, hi, how are you? I hope you're doing well. To anyone new here, a warm welcome. Thank you for checking out the channel. Let me just ask that after listening to and or watching the video, if you found you enjoyed it, please do me a favor, smash that like button. And if you want to support the work I do, please consider a Patreon membership. You'll find a link in the description. Now, let's dig in. A top homicide prosecutor named Matt Murphy has an interesting theory about alleged serial killer Rex Heuermann. Murphy spoke to the Sun newspaper about Heuermann and said he, meaning Murphy, was astounded at how long the alleged serialist was able to stay under the radar. Murphy pointed to the meticulous methods used in the crimes against 3 of the Gilgo Beach 4 victims. Murphy said, quote, "I think when all the evidence comes out, it will show that the killer went to great lengths to avoid detection. If anyone has seen Dexter, they will have watched him gown up and take great care. I think Heuermann was doing something like that. It's fascinating." End quote. Murphy went on to explain that when forensic scientists investigate evidence found at murder scenes, there are 2 types of DNA that could be present. Nuclear DNA, which is present in blood or saliva. Nuclear DNA has a complete genetic profile in it, which effectively ties a crime to the suspect. And then there's mitochondrial DNA, which can be found in hair, teeth, and nails. Per Murphy, mitochondrial DNA doesn't instantly provide the same kind of accuracy, but it can play a key part in any investigation. In the Gilgo Beach 4 cases, one of the victims, Megan Waterman, was found with a strand of Rex Heuermann's hair on her. 3 of the victims were found with female hairs on them that were traced to Rex Heuermann's wife. So all of the evidence in this case is mitochondrial. Murphy pointed out that the prosecution made their case on the mitochondrial DNA, which means they apparently didn't have any nuclear DNA. Per Murphy, it's very rare for a serial assayer not to leave behind nuclear DNA. Murphy said, quote, "So he's almost certainly using condoms when he would assay victims or figuring out some other way to clean his nuclear DNA off," end quote. Murphy compared the case to that of Rodney Alcala. Alcala is known as the dating game killer because he once appeared on that show. Murphy actually worked on the Alcala case back in 2011. Apparently, Alcala evaded getting caught for many years before finally being pinned to the deaths of 7 women between 1971 and 1979. Murphy said this about Alcala: "He was a certifiable genius. He wasn't contemplating the idea of DNA coming out. Heuermann is a smart guy too. He owns his architecture firm, and so absolutely, he's thinking about all the ways he can cover his tracks," end quote. But Murphy also said that the case against Heuermann, if properly argued, is a great case. He said, quote, "Some of the most compelling evidence is the cell phone. How you'll have the victim's cell phone, his burner phone, and then his actual personal phone, all pinging off the same towers as he's traveling between Long Island and Midtown Manhattan where he worked. I think that's really compelling," end quote. In other Rex Heuermann news, according to the Suffolk County Sheriff, Errol Toulon, Heuermann is spending most of his time in jail reading about his case and refusing visit requests from journalists and true crime fans. Toulon further said that Rex is often brought to a secluded and fenced-off section of the exercise yard for an hour at a time, where he walks laps alone. He's also reading some books from the jail's library and watching some TV on a television that is controlled by jail guards outside his cell. And he's reading newspaper articles about his case. And, as with all these dudes, he's receiving letters from true crime fans. His family still has not visited him in person. He is, however, meeting with a chaplain and with his lawyers. Also, Heuermann is no longer on unaliving watch, so he now has bed sheets, and the smock that he had to wear has been replaced with a green uniform. He's still being kept apart from the general population, is being housed in a special unit, and is being supervised around the clock by one dedicated guard, and supervisors check in regularly. Heuermann is living in a 60-square-foot cell with a bunk, a sink, a toilet, and a plastic mirror. Maybe that's where he gave himself that interesting new haircut. Apparently, since Heuermann's arrest, jail officials have interviewed about 120 female inmates so far in the Riverhead Jail and Suffolk County's other lockup in Yaphank. I hope I said that right. 10 of the women have said they encountered Heuermann in various ways. According to the New York Times, some received online date requests from Rex. Others met up with him in person. Per Sheriff Toulon, 2 of those 10 women reported having intimate experiences with Rex Heuermann, in which his violent and aggressive behavior left them frightened but not injured. Thank God. I would like to have been a fly on the wall when those 2 women were telling investigators exactly what he did that frightened them. But according to attorney John Ray, who represents 2 Gilgo Beach victims' families, most of the escorts who were working back in 2010 and 2011 are either dead or retired. Ray said, quote, "Everyone they're talking to is tainted because people in jail are looking to score points to get out," end quote. That's all for today on Rex Heuermann. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories. Thank you so very much, my very special members, for supporting the channel and me.